In this exercise, we'll begin styling Bullseye by adding a background image to the game and by styling the labels. The first step is to add some images that we need into the project, so let's get started. The way you add images into your Xcode project is through something called the assets catalog. Basically, this is this file here called assets.xeassets. And if you open it, it gives you a list of all of the different images resources that you can add into your project. It's really easy to add things into here. You just find the files you want to add, which you can find for this exercise in the download for this exercise inside the folder called images. Just select all of those files and drag them over here into this left sidebar. And it'll create an entry here for each item. You may notice how each of these items here has 3 different areas you can drag an image into. There's 1x, 2x, and 3x. What does that mean? Well, that leads me into a discussion. Here's what the 1x, 2x, and 3x images that you saw in the asset catalog mean. 1x is for the low resolution devices, the ones with the big chunky pixels. There are actually no longer any low resolution devices in existence that can run iOS 11, so you're not likely to see a lot of 1x images in use anymore. 1x images these days are really only a concern if you need to make an app that supports iOS 9 or earlier. 2x is for the high resolution Retina screens. This covers modern iPhones, iPads, and iPod Touches. Retina images are twice as big as the normal images, hence the 2x. The images that you just imported right now are 2x images. 3x is for the super high resolution Retina HD screens that you see on the iPhone Plus devices. If you want your app to have extra sharp images on those devices, then drop appropriately sized images into the 3x category. There's a special naming convention that Xcode uses for file names in your project. If you add @2x at the end, then Xcode knows that that's a 2x image, and if you add @3x at the end, then Xcode knows that it's a 3x image. Low resolution files have no special name. In other words, you don't have to add @1x at the end. Now that we have a bunch of image resources to use inside Bullseye, let's start modifying the app to use these. First, we'll start with a background image. So to do this, open up main.storyboard, and let's resize this window to be the full screen. And I'm going to drag in an image view from the utilities panel. I'll just drag that in over here, and I'll resize it to be the full size of the window here. Another way of sizing, by the way, is you can do this with the inspector over here. The 4th inspector is called the size inspector, and you can set the X, Y, and width and height. You can see here that I've actually not dragged it exactly right. It's actually at -1, and I didn't mean that, so I'm going to change that to be 0, and the width I'm going to say is 568/320, so it's exactly right on the screen. Now, another thing is right now the image view is in front of everything. So to show you what I mean by that, if I go to the 4th tab here, which is the Attributes Inspector, I can choose all of the images that I've added into the Assets catalog, including the background image. But right now it's in front of everything, right? So there's 2 ways to move it to the back. So first of all, you can go to Editor, Arrange, Send to Back, but of course for this to work, you have to have it selected. Try this again. Editor, Arrange, Send to Back. And now it'll be behind everything. You might have noticed that it also moved it up here in the tree. Background used to be at the bottom, and now it moved up to the top. So you can actually rearrange things by dragging them here over in the sidebar, which is also very handy. Okay, now that we have added the image, you notice that this label doesn't look quite right. It's kind of hard to read black text over a brown background, so we're going to change the color to white instead. So you can configure labels over here in the Attributes Inspector. You can change all kinds of properties about them. And so we're going to change the color here, and we're going to select white. And there's a bunch of different ways you can select a color over here, depending on if you like RGB and so on. We're just going to use the RGB value of 255, 255, 255, which is white. Another thing that will make this app text stand out is to add a shadow to it. So down here in shadow, I'm going to select black, which is going to be 0, 0, 0. And you can also change the opacity. A shadow often looks better if you make it a little bit transparent. So I'm going to move it to, just type in here, 50% transparent. Now for the shadow offset, the default is 0, -1. I actually want 0, 1 right there. And you may be able to tell there's a small black shadow underneath at this point. And so to change the font, I can click this T here and choose any of the fonts I want by choosing custom. And so the font I'm going to choose is Arial Rounded MT Bold. And I'm going to set the size to 16. Now notice how currently there's a ... at the end of this label is because it won't fit. Again, the easiest way to size that label to the correct size is to hold down Command and hit equals. And we'll just move that off to the side to be about right. So there we go. At this point, you've learned how to add images to your app, and you've also learned how to do some basic styling of labels.